So we met through our medical field background, and then we were going to get married in Costa Rica, a destination wedding. And we went there, checked the place out. We gave a deposit. We were going to make our family, everybody travel over there. Well, after a few days, I got sick. Like, just leave me alone. It's not good. Okay. She went to the pool bar and hung out made some friends. Meanwhile, I'm stuck in the room for days. And then, she was having a ball. And then, everything was still a go. I was like, I'll get better, whatever. Plan was destination wedding. Then she got sick. I think it was the ice or the water. I don't know.
Who knows?
Holly and Joe Bierworth, thank you so much for being here on the Venue RX today. I'm really excited to chat with you both. Thanks for being here.
Absolutely. We're excited.
Yeah, we're excited too.
This is going to be a fun chat. You guys have a beautiful venue. Like I was saying before we got on, just doing the research on your venue before getting into the show here. It's gorgeous. You're using a lot of really cool marketing things in your website. So kudos to both of you for what you built.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's go back. I love a good origin story. Let's go back and hear a little bit about how you got started. Where did the name Bending Branch come from? You've got such a cool quote on there. I hope you guys share that a little bit.
Yeah, it's a good quote. That was actually from the previous owner, is a good friend of ours. Mm-hmm. Your love will last forever if it's strong enough to bend. Yeah. Bending Branch Ranch.
Yeah.
And actually, we've had a few bookings, people that booked the venue because that spoke to them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know that's our spot, Yeah. So they literally chose us just on their,
slogan.
The slogan, yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's a powerful slogan. It's a good one. Yeah.
It's very true. True.
Take me back, before venues, before the wedding and events industry. What did the two of you do professionally, and kind of how did you get to that place where you were considering buying a venue?
So I don't think that was in our plan, was to buy a venue. Before owning the venue, I worked in a hospital system as an operations manager for a home health agency. And
I worked for a competing home health care agency locally.
Interesting.
Sales and business.
Yeah, sales and business. And that's how we met. I called on her office, and she didn't like that because we're technically competitors, but I had a little different twist on it, service areas and stuff. So I thought, well, I'm not here as a competitor. I'm here to be a resource for you for the patients that you can't take care of out of your service area. So that's how she didn't like me coming to her office, but
very territorial.
Yeah, very. It didn't go well for me.
That's awesome. So, but apparently, it did, something went well. So at some point, something went well.
So we met through our medical field background, and then we were going to get married in Costa Rica, a destination wedding. Beautiful place, La Mariposa, which is butterfly in Costa Rican. And we went there, checked the place out. We gave a deposit. We're going to make our family, everybody travel over there. Well, after a few days, I got sick.
That's unflattering.
Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah, unflattering. Like just leave me alone. It's not good.
Yeah.
So
we asked that.
She went to the hotel, or she went to the pool bar and hung out made some friends. Meanwhile, I'm stuck in the room for days. And then, she was having a ball, and then, everything was still a go. I was like, I'll get better, whatever. Plan was destination wedding. Then she got sick. I think it was the ice or the water. I don't know.
Who knows?
Oh no.
It wasn't so funny anymore, Then I was at the pool bar and she was sick. Like, we can't do this to our friends and relatives, even though it's beautiful.
Right.
Can't risk any of our friends and relatives having this experience at our wedding. Right. So then we nixed it, and then we were kind of at a pinch.
Last minute.
We
got to find a venue.
We're like, we got to find a venue. And her friend, and she was a fairly new friend at the time, she's like, oh, I have a venue. It's kind of a barn-style ranch. And we went and checked it out. Holly and I was like, man, this place is beautiful. I love it. It's just right up my alley. I love the outdoors. It's quiet. State parks and nothing but cattle and horses around the whole perimeter of the property.
Yeah.
You really can't see another house or any any other.
But nestled in New Smyrna Beach, which is a quaint little beach town.
Yeah, we're 15 minutes from the beach, literally from the water, but we're in the middle of the country. So it's kind of crazy location.
Yeah. It's the best of both worlds. A little bit of country, a little bit of beach.
Yeah. And it had old trucks and waterfalls and, just the barn. Everything was just beautiful. I was like, hey, we'll do our wedding here. It was her friend. So she, she said, yeah, we'll get you right in. And we actually picked a Thursday, because this is the funniest part. I was on a budget, I'm always on a budget. Whether I am or I'm not, I'm always on a budget mentally. So I was like, well, we could do it here. We can, we can control the cost. It's probably going to be cheaper than the Costa Rican thing.
You see where that got you?
Yeah, that failed miserably because just months after we got married on a budget here,
buying the venue.
She's like, oh, by the way, we're buying the venue. I'm like, there goes the budget. I'm just like,
So Holly, what happens from, doubtless there were some conversations about the budget to saying, hey, this is something that we need to pursue. What kind of changed during that time?
Yeah, I think that's a funny story too. I was talking with the previous owner. I think we were at the beach and she said, I think I'm going to sell the venue. And I said, well, hey, I think I'm going to buy the venue.
She was joking.
At that point, there was no real thought around funding. Wait, what are we doing? Any of that. So I think we kind of jumped in a little bit blindly, but overall, I'm business prepared. So I knew the property was stunning. It's 10 acres in Florida. So I knew that would hold value. If I could get people to the venue, I knew that they would love the charm. They would love us. And we were, I knew we would be as dedicated to anything that we did as we are to each other and to our families. So I was just kind of one of those things, if we build it, will they come? And I just, had that faith and we do love it. I mean, it is awesome.
We're very hands-on. Almost every single wedding, we're here either the entire time or most of the time.
Yeah. And just
to make sure everything goes well. And
I think that was kind of the beauty in not knowing maybe what we were getting into. Because as I look back, if I would have known all of that's involved and just the different weddings, the different bride types, the family dynamics that you experience, the just loveliness and chaoticness that exists in this industry. I think if I gave it too much thought, I would probably talk myself out of it. So I think it had to be somewhat impulsive. But then, once you sign the paper, it's like, wait a minute, we're doing this. So thank you.
Well, and I'm curious, how did you, and be as general or specific as you're comfortable with, but how did you finance the property? Was it an SBA loan? I mean, some of my guests, they do SBA, they do, they use the Small Business Development Center, some.
Did a bunch of different things. Okay.
Yeah.
Cashed in retirement.
Yeah. I had an investment.
She had a rental property in South Daytona. We sold that.
A little bit of owner finance. So the person that we bought it from, she owned it. So we had a term in which we had to pay the balance off in full. So, you just get creative. Yeah. And we were, booking weddings. So we had some revenue coming in. So that was wonderful to help meet some of those financial obligations, several very large balloon payments along the way. We've written some extremely large checks.
Any revenue that came in, we're like, hey, we're doing really good. It went right to
which is fine, right? Because we're just putting money from this pocket into another pocket, so it's not going anywhere. And I think I had to explain that to you as we're writing some of those checks. Like,
I still have not received a paycheck as a venue owner. I have not. I've spent thousands upon thousands. I have not made a dime.
Right. But so I don't love it. You just have to mentally kind of get behind it. And, this is what we love. And we meet fantastic couples and we love their families. And so the reward is there, but you do have to pay your bills. And thankfully we're able to do that.
And we try to give back to our couples by knowing what their profession is. So if we ever need, like our plumber, he's come out to, he got married here. He's come out to do work for us. Electrician, our attorney. everything. All our grooms or brides, we know whatever they do. We keep track of their profession, so that instead of using some stranger that we don't know, we'd use one of our previous couples, either the bride or the groom.
Yeah.
And we kind of keep it in the Bending Branch family that way, you know, and we get to see our people again. One guy's an auto mechanic. I mean, every trade, every walk of life, you know, you can imagine. One guy's hardware, nuts and bolts.
Yeah. We need nuts and bolts.
We needed 2,000 nuts and bolts for our saloon, which is a silo, grain silo, but we're turning into a bar. It's a circular grain silo, all metal, corrugated metal. So we're cutting a hole, making a French door, double French door entranceway, and we're calling it the saloon.
That's
funny.
Cool.
So it's going to be, and I'm gonna do the inside of the saloon so that when you walk in, you're gonna think you're inside a giant wine barrel, because I'm doing like wooden staves going vertically all the way 18 feet up, all the way around, and then I'll probably get some black metal and then just screw that in so it'll look like a barrel. Yeah. Looks like the inside of
so many fun things happening.
Yeah, so that's the saloon, and the saloon is now up.
It's up.
The slab is poured, the saloon is up. I still have to cut the French doors and do the wood inside, but the building is up.
Yeah.
So I really want to talk about like how you're marketing it, packaging, all the stuff, but I'm curious, Joe, are you pretty handy? Did you like contract out some of the things as far as like when you bought the property, did you need to go get contractors and construction, things like that, or was it pretty much ready to go?
We contracted a lot of it out to builders, and like we have a paver guy who's also our paver guy's a groom, which is neat, you know. So he did all our additional pavers. We had a carpenter friend of mine that I just met in the parking lot at Home Depot, and he's not a groom yet, but
there's still time.
Yeah, he built our additions to the bathrooms. Our other groom is a full-on contractor, and he built.
But you're handy.
But I am handy. Yeah, I
do some things.
Most of it I do. I just don't have time because I have my.
But he did keep his. Yeah.
I kept my job. She left hers. I kept my full-time 9 to 5 in the medical field, so I could do it all, and I try to do as much as I can, but.
And there's some of those tradesy things that like you just can't do. Like he's not a plumber. We added bathrooms. I think to kind of answer one of your questions, this core of it was here. We added, some different flows, some different processes. We added some bathrooms, but I think the big of it was already here. The majority of it was
the bones. Yeah, the bones were here. We just kind of polished it up.
Yeah. I think I
do all the yard work and the maintenance, pressure washing, painting, all that.
When you took the property over, were there existing weddings booked, or were you running with a clean slate?
Yes.
Yeah, and we honored all those without payment, really.
Yeah.
Some of them without payment.
Yeah.
The previous owner had already collected the funds, but we were like, well, we can't charge them double, so we just.
Yeah.
It was part of our purchase.
But it was good for us. It was experience, right? Like we didn't ever do weddings before, and how do you know how to do a wedding? How do you learn? So we were excited and nervous all at the same time, especially me. I think a lot of people, Joe has great ideas, and, if I let him go, there'd probably be a circus here on the property, but, a lot of people look to me and they're like, what do you think about this? But to some degree early on, I didn't really know either. I didn't know what worked, what didn't work. Our wedding was here, but I was a very passive bride. I don't care about centerpieces. I just want my friends and family here. So it was really good to have those previously booked weddings so that it gave us experience. And we experienced the good and the bad through those, which was awesome, because you don't want everyone to be so easy and so great. We had one bride that challenged me every step of the way, and the previous owner had booked her. But she's very type A, she came with the trifold board. I think I ran out the front door,
Yeah, she initially scared us because
she wanted what she wanted, and she wasn't settling. But I grew to love her, and she actually became a wedding coordinator for me now, just because she was so detailed. So a lot of, I would say more than half of our wedding coordinators are previous brides,
Yeah, we're good friends with her and her husband.
Yeah.
Now they have 2 kids.
Yeah. So it was, it's good. So not, different styles, but it was good experience.
So I want to ask a question about that just to dig into it a little bit deeper. But one thing I've just heard again and again and again from the two of you is you're using the property to kind of continue the property. Like you're using the relationships that you're, developing, you're using even opportunities. You're going to Home Depot, right? And that's an opportunity for something for the property, but then you're pulling someone in. So that's so cool. I love that. If you were to go back and tell your past selves about what you're going to get into, and this is really for someone who's listening to the show right now who is maybe considering buying a property, and they start doing some research on the internet and this episode pops up. What are you telling them as far as maybe some of the things that they can encounter, brace for impact, avoid this? Do you have some kind of initial things for some of those first weddings that they're going to get?
So I would definitely say this is not an 8 to 5. This is a sun up to sundown. You are 100% 24 hours invested in not only your couples, but the property, their families.
All your vendors become friends because once you get a good team of vendors, you kind of like to keep that flow.
I think you need to build a good team. I think I would say first, just know this is a huge time commitment. You can't have thin skin. So I would say you're going to hear everyone's opinion about your property and your space, and you just have to be thick about it and not take it so personal. I've had several tours that come through here, and maybe the mom or the cousin has planned 2 weddings prior, so they are now experts at weddings and they know everything about everything. And you just kind of have to give them that grace and be interested in what they're saying and listen to them. But for sure, time commitment, not thick skin, and just ready to.
And your weekends are gone for pleasure weekends. They're gone during wedding season. Your weekends are spent working, and they're 12, 14-hour days on your feet. It's not easy. And, you're helping clean up, you're helping the caterers, you're helping everybody, just to be on the property. Otherwise,
you don't know.
You can't control the quality of the event,
right?
If you're not there. So as an owner, just hands-on is the only way to go, because otherwise the property can get ruined,
Just build a good team. So, I think initially we let any vendor come in because we just wanted to be all-inclusive. Nobody's excluded. But you very quickly learn that maybe this caterer or this DJ's not necessarily better, but just more respectful of your property and easier to work with. And unfortunately, as a venue owner, you are, for whatever reason, you are the caterer, even if you're not. You are the DJ, even if you are not.
Any one of your outside vendors is direct. If the food's terrible,
it's us.
It's the venue, even though we had nothing to do with the operation of the not that is ever happened. Well, if it is a complaint, it's on us.
They come to the venue. Like, the venue is great, but the food sucked or something. And you're like, wait a minute, we're not the food.
Yeah.
Because we are just the venue and the coordinators. So I think
it's
just
a package deal.
Having
either way.
Having to know you're going to work 24/7, thick skin, and build a great team around you and really trust those people. And, make a really nice working relationship. So when you pass your couples on to the next, vendor, whether it's photographer or caterer, all will be well. And if it's not, then there's some accountability from the vendor to me, and vice versa. Like, they expect things from us too. So
I'm curious, do you envision a time where you're not going to be working weddings?
You would love that, but
I don't. I just feel more comfortable if I'm here in case there's like a circuit breaker that blows or something like that. I can, take care of the problem if it arises, or if there's a plumbing problem or something that I know I can fix most of those issues. And I know the property better than anybody at this point. So I just feel better if I'm not here and there's a wedding going on. I'm nervous. I can't rest. So I might as well just be here, and I'll just be down hanging out at the stables in case there's an emergency,
Right. But it is nice. I mean, just even during those events, we talk to the families, we talk to the guests, and it's good exposure and experience for us to talk to them. And that part of it we love, like just mingling with people. We love that.
Yeah.
It's more of the take out the trash.
It's a lot of trash, And I try to recycle. I just think that's to see the recycling, and we have the bins, the blue bins for recycling, and people just don't recycle. I have to have the DJ remind people that the blue bin is for the recycling, the other one is for the trash. Because, you see the number, the volume of cans and bottles and stuff, and it starts to weigh on you heavily about your impact on the environment, So I'm picking through the trash half the night, taking, hey, this is recyclable, this is recyclable, and it lessens the amount of trash going to the landfill, and then the rest goes to the, recycle bin, because these are finite amounts of materials that we have, so yeah, plastics, all that.
Yeah, no, it's very true, and especially with an event venue where you've got cans, beer cans, soda cans, bottles, whatever. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I wish Florida would do the 5-cent return law. It would clean up not only our landfills, it would clean up our whole community. You wouldn't see cans and bottles laying around because they're 5 or 10 cents a bottle. People would do a little side biz and pick them all up. They would go thrown out the side of the road.
I was going to say, so in Florida, they don't have a sort of like credit or anything like that?
No, they have recyclable pickup, but that's about it. It goes to the city and then they.
So at some of our venues we have, because we operate a couple of venues here in California, and we've actually opened it up to some different people who come in, and they'll come in after the event and they'll grab all the recycling and they'll take it to the dump, but they'll also sort through the trash. And because that's it's in bulk. Joe, you're talking about, it's like, a couple hundred cans each time. Yeah.
Yeah. Or if not more, several hundreds.
Yeah. And if you have back-to-back weddings, just the volume, the sheer volume.
I like that they're doing that.
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of other states that have the same idea. California, New York is a big one. Maine, they're all very, recyclable oriented. Yeah.
So let's go to kind of the marketing portion. Like, how are you marketing? How are you getting the word out there about the venue? Is it something that people are driving by, or do you really have to market it heavily to kind of get exposure for the property?
Yeah, we're really tucked away, so we don't have like any frontage.
No foot traffic, no
other than bikers and horse people that go to the state park.
So we are kind of nestled down a long dirt road, and our neighbor is a state park. So unless you're intentionally coming to the state park, you probably wouldn't pass the venue, which is a positive in the way that it's quiet for noise. People don't have to worry about honking cars and all of that. You won't hear that out here, nor will you see big apartment buildings. So in that respect, it's a positive, but it is challenging. So it's kind of one of those things where I said, if I could get people here, I know that they'll love it.
Yeah.
So marketing has been kind of one of those things that I always use this analogy, like you just throw noodles at the wall and whatever sticks.
We do the wedding wire.
Sometimes you don't know. We've teamed up with some local associations in Florida. You just have to be mindful of what's working and where your referrals are generating, and if it's, converting to a booking. So, some of those associations that I've been a part of have been tremendous in our success. And other ones, you just kind of look back over the year and you say, okay, that really wasn't very advantageous for us to continue that. Although it's a great organization, probably not great for us. It's hard because we're New Smyrna and our biggest competitor is Orlando. So a lot of the associations are geared towards Orlando. Yeah. So to get people kind of to New Smyrna, and we are Orlando's beach. So New Smyrna is Orlando's beach, but some people just want to get married over there. So some of those associations are more geared towards the Orlando market.
Yeah.
So, we just have to kind of do a look back, we pay for this and pay for that and see what works. And the bigger stuff, the wedding wire and the knot seem to work well for us. But our biggest thing has been word of mouth.
Word of mouth. Yeah. We've had relatives and friends of people, and we do some charity events out here. So people come out for that event and they'll be like, oh my gosh, here's a good story. Our pest control guy. What, babe?
I need a charger.
our pest control, he's a basketball friend of mine. I played with him for years, and he's a snake wrangler and raccoons and, kind of the nasty type vermins that are in Florida. And there was a huge rattlesnake that was down in the field, and I was just down there, mowing. I saw this huge snake, and I called him because he's like, the guy to call. It's only happened one time. The thing was huge. It was like 6 foot. So I called Johnny and John Noel, and I said, hey, I took a picture of it. He's like, don't kill it. It's a beautiful creature. He loves all the wildlife and everything. So I said, well, come out here. And he's like, I'll come out and grab it. You're my buddy, so I won't charge you, because normally it's like $300. He's like, I'll come out and get it. I'll relocate it for you. I said, beautiful. So he comes out, and I've known him for years for the basketball, and he's newly engaged, but I didn't think of anything. He just knows me as Basketball Joe. So he comes out, and he's like, what's going on? What is this place? He's looking around like it's a prank. And I was like, it's a wedding venue. He's like, I was like, the snake's over here. He's like, what do you mean wedding venue? And his fiance, it was right up her alley, nature and barn and beautiful and quiet. And he's like, she'll love it. Ash, she'll love it. And I said, well, bring her out sometime, but let's go take care of the snake. And then he did. He brought her out like a couple days later, and they ended up, getting married here, which was just great because I was concerned about the snake, and, he ended up wanting to get married here. So
that's incredible. Again, going back to this, like the two of you are connected with the couples, the guests. And so it's interesting because you're able, I think, to get a more honest perspective on what's working in terms of marketing versus if you're just looking at it, like if you put it on a form, where did you hear about us?
Right.
Last click attribution, like people are like online. Like I ask couples all the time who tour, where did you see us? Oh, I was searching online. It's like, well, yes, of course you were. How exactly? And and what was the thing that really put you over the edge? Was it the beautiful Instagram pictures? Was it your slogan, right? Like what was it, your friend who got married, or did you So that makes so much sense. Yeah. In terms of marketing, in terms of getting your name out into the community, are there some kind of best practices for things that you've seen work? Or is it those community events? Is it like if there's only one or two things that you could do and you had to get rid of some of the other ones, what would some of those be?
So definitely our charity events are huge. We can draw in larger crowds than maybe a wedding. But I do think staying active on social media. I mean, I would say that that's our next one. I mean, just
having little stories,
constantly posting, reminding people that we're here. I mean, that's the biggest thing. I think we're pretty well known in this area now, but then there's that bride and she just suddenly forgets, so you just want to stay on the forefront of everyone's brain. Like, we're still here. Hey, we're here. So, we just try to stay very active, on all of those social media platforms. And then those
social media is so big these days, it's hard to.
And then doing those charity events where we can draw in, maybe I think our rough kind of average guest count at a wedding is 100. These charity events can draw in over 300 people from everywhere too, not just this market, but, maybe West Palm and Orlando and a little bit of Jacksonville. So we're getting a wide variety of, so I think that they're pretty crucial to our success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to go there next, and you created a beautiful segue for it. Where are you getting a lot of your clients locally? Or is this more something kind of, you have a more statewide reach? Do you have a lot of out-of-state guests or clients?
I've had a few out-of-state guests.
We have a lot of out-of-state, but I think, those are maybe 5 a year, but it's still wild because it's like Washington State.
Yeah,
and then I'm
really far.
You hear about us.
But their parents retired and they live in Houston, so they're like looking for wedding venues, and the parents come out of the bride and groom. They come out and check it out. So we had Georgia. Yeah, we've had all over the place.
Yeah,
New York, a lot of New York or New Jersey.
Yeah,
they have family, and we've had Miami, and Miami's 4 hours away.
Yeah,
I've had them drive up just because they want to get out of Miami.
I think that would be my most surprising market is South Florida for us. we have so many couples from like West Palm and just South Florida. And, we're 2-3 hours north of there.
Yeah.
So I asked couples, I'm like, how did you find us? And, why are you choosing here? And, to some degree, it's like a different destination vacation space to get them out of there. And I think, price point. South Florida is a little bit more expensive, or a lot.
So is Orlando.
Yeah. Right. And so is Orlando. So we're a little bit of a different price point. So I think that that's helpful. But it was surprising. I really thought our market was going to be Orlando. But it seems, other than local, it seems our next biggest is South Florida.
Interesting. Yeah. Moving to pricing and, then to kind of operations and how you're doing some of those different things. How did you determine pricing? Did you keep the pricing that the previous owner had? Did you change things? Talk me through that.
Yeah, we kind of kept it as is, the previous owner had. And I think we also looked at, our market, what's around us, and we're pretty in par with them. So I think we just kind of
venues.
Right. We did apples to apples.
Yeah.
We're not a ballroom, and we're not the beach. So we kind of kept what was standard for this area. We did create a bundle, which has been exceptionally well received by all people. I think a lot of people couples come in and they just don't want to find the DJ and don't want to figure out the photographer. And they're just tell me, Holly, who do you like and what would you do? So I did team up with some of the best, in my opinion, photographers and bar service and
florists.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
well, that Yeah,
and not only their talent, but also, their attitude and their whole demeanor. Because I try to explain to couples, you're going to be dealing with these people over the next year. And so you don't want to deal with crankpot over here. You want to deal with positive, happy people and people that have your best interest at heart. So I didn't only look for talent, although obviously that is important, but also people that I would want to deal with on a daily basis. So I think that bundle has, kind of catapulted us and moved us along a lot faster, just developing that. And then the feedback from the bundle has just been, each couple, they just love the bar service. They love the photographers. They love the DJ. And it just kind of helps relieve us of some of that stress where, the food, and we've partnered with caterers, but I didn't necessarily put that in my price, but I did make a bundle price to include the DJ and the photographer. So it's helpful.
Yeah. And just, I know from experience, if you've got a great vendor team, that definitely takes stress off of you as an owner. You're like, oh, it's, the two of you are sitting there going, oh, it's Stan, it's whoever else. Oh, they're going to crush it. They're great. I can, get on the phone with somebody for an hour and not think that something's going to.
Blind at ease, knowing that you've got the team that you're familiar with.
And they're familiar with the space. I mean, you're not having to recreate the wheel. This is where this happened, They just know the space.
And the value is there too, because the volume that we're giving, the photographer, the DJ, they're giving us a better rate. So the couple is more affordable for the couple. Because if they look around and they'll look at the bundle, then they'll go and try to piecemeal these things together and be like, oh my gosh, a photographer can go from $1,500 to $35 and up.
Right.
And same with the DJ. And they're like, what? And our price is kind of locked in with them because they know that we're going to give them preferred business. So they give us a good rate, keeps the price down for the overall.
Yeah.
That's huge. That's such a great idea for blank canvas venues, because you want to say, hey, you can go call other vendors, but yeah, I love that. Do whatever you want, or I like that. So in terms of volume, are you guys doing, under 50, above 50? Are you over 100? Kind of where are you at? Where do you want to be?
So from a financial standpoint, the goal was to do about 30, 35 weddings a year. That was to kind of put our minds at ease. That would sort of pay the bills and give some extra money. But in that first year, I think we did about 65. So we doubled it.
Yeah.
And then
that was COVID too.
Right.
But we're open air. You can open, you know, all the doors in the barn and people can stay outside.
I mean, to kind of go back, that was kind of the other part of this is we got married in February of 2020 and in June. So when everything shut down is when I'm turning and telling him, hey, we're going to buy this event venue where people all come together.
During COVID, I was like, yeah, good stuff.
This is going to be great. Right. So I had to do a little bit more pitching to him, but I was like, it's going to work. It's going to work. So we've definitely exceeded our goal. We're not quite to 100, but I don't know if we want to.
Yeah, I'm not sure that we want to be like a wedding mill.
Yeah.
We still want to be intimate and special. And if you start cranking out thousands, then I think it loses something, you know?
Yeah. And the two of you are doing it. I mean, do you live on property?
No. Okay. Close by, maybe 10 minutes or less away.
But there is a house on the property.
There is a house.
Yeah. That the guys kind of use as their quarters, but we don't live here.
2 houses, the groom's quarters and the bridal suite.
Yeah.
It's separate houses.
Do you do overnights there? Like, can people stay if they want to come in on a Friday and leave it on a Sunday?
I've done it for maybe just a smaller wedding party if they wanted to stay on property.
It's not my favorite thing because it kind of prices us out too, because then you have to give the people the venue for 2 days, as opposed to if I had a Friday wedding and a Saturday wedding.
It gets to be tough. If it was like a
financially
Tuesday and they wanted to stay through Wednesday and we don't have any, that would be different. But you know, when it's on a weekend, you know, you can't have 2 different parties here.
And people ask that all the time, and I'm always like, well, you can, but you have to be out at 8 a.m. And I don't know, you're kind of like that.
Yeah.
The day after your wedding.
Or you got to pay the price of both days, which then jumps it kind of into a new.
Still be nervous. I mean, we have done it a couple times, but all night I can't sleep because I don't know what's going on here, you know.
If they're wild partiers and staying the night, we're not here. The party never. That's the other. After the wedding, if their wedding party or there's a group of people still hanging out, it's technically over. But since they're spending the night, then the party can continue, and then we have no idea what's going on. So it would be too much. It's too nerve wracking. So,
but we have
that has happened. There's some quiet, mellower type, you know, smaller parties. We have let them stay here, you know, on a Sunday when there's nothing going on a Monday, you know. Yeah. That makes sense. They just love it, you know, which is a compliment that they want to be here that much more, you know, they want to have more time here, which is a compliment in itself, you know.
Holly, you said something about the difficult, and Joe, I think you were kind of echoing it as well, just about the difficulty or maybe the things that are difficult about owning the property, because people are going to give their opinion and their feedback. Yeah. And like, I personally am really stoked about that saloon. I mean, I'm going to be thinking about that thing. I'm going to, you know, if I come to Florida.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. Big old chandelier hanging from the center. Yeah, it's going to be neat.
Yeah. So, I mean, that sounds so cool, but you might have someone and that feels good, right? Because you're like, I'll look at that play, I'll tour and I'll be like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. And like, that feels good. But then equally, there might be someone that goes, well, look at this. Like this kind of who thought that this would be a good idea? And you're like, damn, that was me. Like,
and that'd be.
But so then you know that not everyone is your client. You don't want everyone to be your client. If I was doing the tour and somebody were to look at the saloon and say, that looks like some hillbilly backwoods, I would just know they're not our people. And just, you know, obviously continue on with the tour, but you can very quickly tell who your people are, who's in love with the property. You know, you can't let it upset you, but yeah. And truthfully, you don't want every client. I mean, there are some people that you're like, the next venue would be great for you.
If we don't think we can make them happy,
right,
then we're like, well, you know, maybe
this isn't.
Yeah, no, totally. And that's great because that, you know, the selling style is a little bit more relaxed, right? Because you're not trying to convince them. You're kind of almost vetting them to see if they're and that energy feels different in the tour, I'm sure.
Yeah. We're definitely not high pressure, sign now, book here. I mean, do I love it when they do that? Sure. But do I know when they leave here and they go somewhere else, they're not necessarily going to get us. They're not going to get our space. So 9 times out of 10, they come back. Our conversion ratio is very high. So that's speaks volumes to our space and us. But yeah, it's definitely low pressure. Just we want everyone to be happy, because on the flip side, like Joe said, our reviews, our Google reviews help kind of keep us moving forward. And so if we're promising something that we're not, or if we're, oh yeah, we hate the saloon too, if we're kind of engaging in those conversations about things that people do not like, and we're not kind of saying, well, this is the way that it is here, then on the back end, not only do you have unhappy people, but they could leave bad reviews, and our reviews are really excellent. I think we're finding our right clientele. I think that's important.
That is going to be nice, though, the silent. I'm telling you, it's going to. Oh, and majority of people are going to.
So excited. Yeah.
All walks of life, wherever it's going to be cool.
I'm sold. I'm married. I've been coming up on my 11th wedding anniversary. I want to check that out. That sounds so cool. So I'm, again, kind of with that similar theme of telling yourselves, your past selves, some hints or some tips or things like that. Were there influential resources that really made a difference in your journey up to this point, whether it's podcasts, whether it's maybe local consultants, maybe a website designer, or maybe a friend, or maybe who are those influential people, and maybe who should, if you were giving counsel to someone who was in your position a couple of years back, who would you encourage them to lean into as far as seeking out advice for and kind of understanding how to continue growing the business?
Oh gosh.
Yeah. Well, we have friends that are wedding venue owners here locally, and
so that helps.
That does help
tremendously,
because we can bounce things off of them. We've been to weddings, and we've been to some of the surrounding area venues. And everywhere we go, our trip to Georgia, we look at a barn, or we look at what somebody's done at a vineyard, at a winery up in New York or Georgia, and they're like, well, we're like, that's really beautiful, and we kind of try to take.
And there's some forums that I would tell people to kind of follow, whether they're on Facebook or just in, your local area, just to get some growing pains that people have experienced. You kind of want that, because none of us are recreating the wheel here. We're all just, kind of figuring it out to some degree as you go, because each couple is it's such an individualized event. But for the most part, just kicking off, forums, other venue owners are excellent sources. That's been probably key to us.
Yeah.
And
our own customers, any feedback that they've given us, positive or negative.
Yeah.
And in fact, the negative is probably more motivating, or I wouldn't say motivating because it hurts, but it's more of a, when you have a negative, somebody says something negative about the property, it's more of a call to action. All right, well, if we hear the same thing a couple times, we're like, all right, let's fix that. Let's do something different there,
Yeah, the feedback loop is really short. You hear, hey, we need this, or it'd be so cool if there was X, and then you can kind of react to that. I've got two more questions today, just before we wrap. I'm curious about kind of competition, and I know there's been a lot of people, I've just heard across the United States, there's been a lot more venues that have opened. And so have you felt, I've heard that there are a lot of venues that open. Have you felt the impact of new venues opening in your market, or not so much?
So the competition, just in a 5-mile radius, I think there's probably 5 barns. So competition is tough, and that's just 5 miles. If I expand that out, it gets even more, and that's just barn style. So that is tough. Because we're friends with other venue owners, there are slower months, and I feel like I tend to panic a little bit more, even though we're fine. It's just the nature of the beast. And you kind of look back at previous years this same time, and you want to be the exact same or better. But, I don't think it has really impacted us, the newer venues that have opened. But I only know that too because I talk to other venues, and I'm like, hey, do you have, are you slow on tours? Are you slow on bookings? Are you, are your doors blowing off? So it gives us some real time comparison. But thankfully for us, we've kind of maintained the course, and the course has been better than expected and better than desired. So we're happy. And also we don't have an expectation of 100 weddings a year. Could we do it? Yeah. Would we maybe sacrifice some quality? Possibly. And I don't think that we're in a position to do that. So I think we're so comfortable in just maintaining. We still have a personal life. We're still able to get away and go on little vacations, but yet we're able to maintain the property and keep every event happy. So I haven't seen a slowdown yet. But we definitely have a lot of competition around us.
Yeah, we've heard about new ones popping up.
Yeah.
Within an hour or less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, so many people see the profitability in the wedding industry. And so I hear all the time, oh, all I have to do is buy a piece of property and slap a barn on it and I'm good. And I'm like, how about it? It's not that easy. It is not that easy. And I wish them all the best, but I hear that all the time. I think
once some of these new ones get up and running and see that there's a lot of work involved, and to come out ahead, the investment of the property and all that,
the marketing, the getting the people, getting your name out there. I mean, it's
kind of like a restaurant. If you survive the first couple of years, then you'll probably be good, but it's going to be tough to survive.
But I think we're always making improvements. Like the saloon, we're always looking at ways to, even if there is the competitor that pops up, we're keeping all of our same great stuff, but we're adding saloons, we're adding undercover ceremony site, because right now it's exposed.
It's an outdoor ceremony site. We're putting up a giant pergola, like a pole barn, but really nice.
So we're just always trying to improve for ourselves and our clients to just add that extra value that maybe they're not getting at that new venue.
We put a pond in.
So much.
Yeah. A pond with a nice LED fountain. There's bass in there. It's really, we lined the back wall with stone, with big flat stone. So it's real pretty photo op. And there's a bridge. The bridge was just sitting in the backwoods. So we put it over like a little stream that goes down to the pond. So we've done every time, and the couples say that too, is like every time they come here, if they hadn't been here since they initially toured, then they come for their, one a month, design appointment. They're like, oh my gosh, that wasn't your last time we were here. Or this is new. And we're constantly trying to make it, prettier, nicer, new fencing, stuff like that. What's our other project?
The beer barrel.
Oh, we have a mini donkey that carries beers in a satchel. It's an insulated satchel cooler.
Saddlebag.
Yeah, it's a saddlebag. Yeah. So, and he's a mini dog that we got, and
he just walks around.
He just walks around with beer in his satchels. That's So. And a carriage. Our carriage. We had a 9-passenger vis-a-vis, like an Amish carriage, but like a limousine, a very beautiful. It was white and red, and it was a great photo op, and people would just take pictures, climb up, sit on it, take a picture. And it got blown over and wrecked in the hurricanes. So it got destroyed. It broke the axle.
Always improving.
So we're looking at a new one of those, because right now we don't have one.
Well, we're combating competition by always improving.
I love that. That's something cool. I think it's interesting. If you buy a venue with the expectation that you're going to do 100 weddings a year, and you spec it out like that, and you say, okay, 100 weddings a year at $10,000 a wedding is $1 million a year. And then you buy into a property at those kind of metrics. So you say, okay, I'm going to buy a $2 million or $3 million property. And then you have that as your financials, and you have a balloon payment or whatever it is based on that scenario. That really puts insane pressure on you to do that versus what you're doing, right? Which is kind of like you buy the property, and I don't know how much you bought it for, but you buy it and then you're slowly adding things. There's appreciation that's happening. You're getting that reputation. You're continuing the reputation. That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
It's less stress.
It is. Yeah. You don't want a huge overhead, and so, because you're right. If you do the math and it looks great on a calculator, but
it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, it's not necessarily going to happen that way. You might only do 20 and you slotted yourself for 100. And that's some of these new venues. They're going to spend a lot of money building them because lumber, all your metals, your lumber, all your building materials have doubled, tripled since, you know.
It takes your joy out of it too. Now you're not having fun. Now it's not joyful. Now, I mean, it's just numbers. And our couples don't get that feel from us. I don't think any of them would say they're definitely our couples.
They definitely will never feel like a number.
I mean, I know you want to probably wrap us up, but we were just in New York and we had run into someone that we knew in Florida, but only, how did you know him? From a doctor.
Retired guy. He's
short story.
Short story. Yeah. So we're up in New York. I know him from Florida, a little tiny Ormond Beach, Florida, near Daytona. And I knew him from years ago at Gold's Gym. And I saw him at a doctor's office. I was in there calling and he's like, I know you. I was like, I know you too. And then we compared notes. He's like, I was Gold Gym 10 years ago. I was like, good to see you, you know? And then we're up in New York. We're at the Finger Lakes. And I was like, we were getting ice cream. And I was like, hey, I know that guy. I knocked on his car door and he looks at me like, hey, I know you. And then we did the whole thing again. He's like, but you're not supposed to be in New York. You're supposed to be in Florida. Right. So we get to talking. We go to ice cream with him and his wife. They're both 80-year-old grandparents. And then we were talking about our venue. What do you do? They asked. And I said, we own a wedding venue in New Smyrna Beach. He's like, you're kidding.
Which one?
They're like, which one? We're like, Wedding Ranch. They're like,
then the grandmother said,
the grandkids got married here, and they had pictures of inside our house.
But where I was going with that was they were like, oh, our granddaughter Andrea, and I was like, oh, and Joe, and they were like, yes. So they're not just a number. We remember them, we know them, and it had been, I think, 2 years prior, but still, you know, we knew them. So yeah.
And then Holly was looking at her phone at the pictures of the wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy.
So it's keeping it
small world.
Keeping it small enough where everybody's still a couple. You still love them. You still enjoy them. You remember them. You're so happy for them, and not that, you know, too many weddings where you're like, Andrea, who?
Yeah, and you're just grinding it out to make that mortgage payment, or
still having fun.
We're still enjoying.
That makes so much sense. Well, it's been so much fun to talk to the two of you today. I'm excited to showcase, you know, your venue on the podcast and put links and everything. If people want to connect with you, what's the best place for them to reach out to you?
So call or text me. So our number's online, but if you need it, it's 386-679-0166, or you can email us. I have my phone with me all the time. So please, you know, just contact us.
Ranch.
At gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Very cool. I ask everyone two pretty basic questions at the end of every episode. What's your least favorite part and what's your most favorite part of venue ownership? And I know we talked over some of these, but if you just had to think of like single most favorite, Joe for you, Holly for you, what are those?
My favorite is for sure the bride walking down the procession to the ceremony site. I have goosebumps every time.
Yeah.
That is my most favorite moment. I wish I could like bottle up all those goosebumps and just, it's amazing. And it's every couple. It's awesome. What is yours?
Well, I'm a notary, so I do some of the weddings. I perform the ceremony too, free of charge, which is nice because sometimes they don't know who's going to do it. And I always offer that. But I've seen grooms cry and then they get me choked up, but it's my favorite part. That's awesome.
Least favorite
is clean up.
Yard
recycling and trash. Recycling and trash. Nobody can separate the recycling.
Yeah. Yard.
They get a few drinks in them, and that recycling symbol seems to be like, you know, ancient hieroglyphics or something, you know?
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Joe, Holly. It's been so wonderful chatting with both of you, and this has been a lot of fun. Go check out Bendy Branch Ranch. Tongue twister, yeah. And we'll talk to you guys real soon. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you
very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We document and share best practices around owning, operating, and managing world-class wedding venues.